Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Holistic Pharmacy Podcast. I have with me a very special guest once again. His name is Tim Daniels, and as a wellness plan manager, he's dedicated to helping individuals live better, healthier lives and thrive physically well into their golden years. He customizes wellness plans to each person's unique needs that include, but not limited to, non-pharmaceutical pain management, stress mastering, age-adjusted exercise, quality sleep, mental well-being, nutrition, social activities, PEMF therapy, which I'm excited to get into today, and a healthy home. His diverse background in collegiate wrestling, Chinese internal martial arts, strength training, operating as a corporate executive in demanding situations, and running an in-home care agency for over 7.5 years equips him to craft effective wellness strategies. Tim partners with health and wellness providers to enhance client outcomes while increasing profitability. He offers scientifically sound, FDA-cleared PEMF solutions that are natural, non-invasive, and free from side effects. His expertise in sales, project management, and consulting is supported by a BA in economics from Stanford University and an MBA from the University of Chicago. This blend of academic and practical experience uniquely positions Tim to assist health and wellness providers in achieving superior patient outcomes and business growth. So without further ado, let's welcome Tim to the show. Welcome, Tim.
It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me, and good to be here with you, Marie.
Yes, it's so good to have you, and what an impressive background. I'd love to dive in and just learn a little bit about how you grew up and how you got into this field.
How I grew up, Marie, that's really taking me back. So actually, as you did that bio, I actually realized how much I had dated myself a little bit because the University of Chicago, when I went there, it was just called the University of Chicago. Now it's called the Booth School of Business. So I really should put in there and update that, the Booth School of Business. But I'm just for predominantly a small town guy. Growing up, well, I say predominantly. My father was career military by the time, so I'd moved around. And by the time I was 8, I'd lived in California, Georgia, Germany, Arizona, and Nebraska. But we retired back to my mother's hometown in Nebraska. I was youngest of 5, so was reached his Army retirement age. So I consider myself a Nebraskan on a Grand Island, Nebraska. So nice, beautiful small town with predominantly good people. Thank them for bringing me along. So that's the early stages, and then we went off like you left Nebraska to go to Stanford, as you mentioned in the bio there.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, what a diverse background just from growing up and having such a diverse family.
Mhm.
So how has that shaped your experience and how has that brought you to the health field and the business field as well, it sounds like?
Well, a lot of people, I guess, had different people they looked up to and their, icons and models. But my parents were my role models, so that very much. So Sergeant Major T.A. Daniels, 31 years, and one day short of 31 years in the military. Was my father, and Ethel Daniels was my mother. They were my role models. They shaped me. So, and I would say, in Central Nebraska played a role in that, just in terms of values and the way you treat people, and it's being helpful but minding your own business at the same time. And so that this led me there and off to school. And really, I followed a career path for a business career path for a while, large corporate career path. And at one point wanted to be a Fortune 500 CEO, but at some point I realized that was not going to happen. And I also was a little disillusioned with what I was doing. The company got tired of me and I got tired of them. And so I was running consulting and services practices, IT consulting and services practices. And at one time for that company, ran the US banking practice. But I wanted to be a benefit in a different way to people. And so that's what initially took me in. So I used my service, didn't want to stay in IT, was predominantly servicing financial services firms, didn't want to go into that world. So I took my services background and then went into that home care agency that operated in 3 states. I really wanted to see more tangible, direct impact on people's lives. So that's what took me back.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, it sounds like a complete 180, right? From economics and business track to more of like providing health services and home care.
Mhm.
But it sounds like you have been combining that back in and kind of doing both and shooting two birds, so to speak. So tell us a little bit more about how that developed your passion for health and to helping people get better.
Yeah, so a couple of, well, one, I guess, kind of in parallel, I'd always been around sort of health, well, it was more of a fitness and performance before that, and meaning, so yeah, I started wrestling when I was in fourth grade, I think it was, and so I've been around that. When I got to college, so you got into nutrition and training for that, became a martial artist, and that really it studied with some. I was grateful, studied with some folks out of mainland China while I was out in San Francisco. And so that always been on that sort of that parallel path. Then, that transition over into from business over into the world more full time came when I just, as you said, a lot of people look at it and say it's very, very different from that IT consulting, but over to home care. Yes and no. Over in the IT consulting world, I had project managers that helped me structure things and projects as part of my practice. Over in the home care world, it was a nurse would go out and do things as opposed to an analyst doing certain parts of a project. Then I had a home health aide or a certified nurse aide. So managing that services business, developing a plan, you had to have the requirements. You still had to understand the requirements for care, like you had to understand the requirements for building a system. And so there's a lot of overlap there. And so that got me into it. That's where I made the transition. There, I started seeing a lot of impact on people. People, I predominantly worked with people from, say, 79 up into their 90s, but I saw a lot of things that they let impact themselves. If they had had different lifestyle, they could have been higher performing, could have had either lessened the impact or avoided some of the things they were going through. So that really started focusing on ways to help, to avoid that for myself and a little bit for others. And then I also rarely got the opportunity, to help people cope business. They can't dress anymore. They can't drive anymore. They're bedbound sometimes. You're helping them cope with that. You're helping their families cope with that change in their loved ones. All very important, all very rewarding. But I also wanted to see people get better. And I really got the opportunity to see people get better. Yet I knew from various things that even people in that age bracket, even though they had done things, lifestyle things they should have avoided, they could get better. And that's what led me on my quest to say, how can I find things and structure things and approaches that will, one, help people get better in that age bracket, help people get better in all age brackets, but also help them stay high performing as long as they can and avoid those debilitating things for as long as they can.
Yeah, what you're speaking about is really hindsight is 2020, right? Once you
Yeah.
get to a certain age and you're able to reflect on your life, maybe then it becomes more clear what type of activities got you into the shape that you're in at a certain time,
Mhm.
right? But when we're living life, right, it's sometimes, so easy to just get sucked into things. And of course, there's accidents and just surprises of all kinds that can come in and land people into these unfortunate situations where they need help taking care of themselves. So that's something that can't always be prevented, right? But then we have a whole plethora of things that, yes, even if you have a genetic predisposition, we have epigenetics, and our environment and behaviors can certainly help shape what gets turned on and off. And we can do a lot in the fields that you're mentioning. So, nutrition and movement and mental health, all of these things. So, I'm really curious what brought you into the PEMF specifically, which stands for pulsed electromagnetic field.
Yeah. So that's actually when I started moving out of that, when I started looking for the things, say, what can really help people recover. That's where I came across, yeah, PEMF. And I had teamed up with a person who was doing, he's a concierge personal trainer, operated in, I think, 4 to 5 states, was a celebrity trainer. And so we were doing some things together, and somebody brought this PEMF to his attention and said, I think you could use this in your business. And he said, Tim, I don't have time to properly evaluate this. Could you evaluate it for us? And so I said, sure. And at the time I lived around some, I had a doctor friend of mine who was, he's a leading thoracic surgeon now who I'd gone to college with on the wrestling team. And I had some other doctors I lived around and said, could you help me take a look at this? And it passed their smell test. And so then I got into it. So that's what initially got me into it. And then I started seeing that all the things it could do for people and did for people. I mean, we'll go now. It's been studied with everything from tinnitus to arthritis to neuropathy to help with Parkinson's. And so and has been shown to have good effect across a wide range of things. And as I started using it on people and introducing people to it, and I've worked both ways, and it's actually like 2.5 ways on that one. Meaning, what do I do? So I do work directly with people. A lot of these devices are affordable by a good swath of the population, and that's the ultimate. You have one in your home and you use it daily, so it's been direct to people. But other times, as we talked a little bit in another conversation, a lot of doctors were skeptical about it and heard about it. So as I worked with them, they would often give me when I got through the door, they often would give me their toughest cases and say, could it do anything with this? So when I saw bones that weren't showing healing, that were healing, neuropathy that wasn't responding to medication, and seeing that being fixed, tinnitus, that the ringing in the ears is very hard to get benefit with, and seeing that help with that, on and on and on. I said, this is really a technology and that deserves to be advocated for and deserves to be brought out there, and that everybody should make a informed decision on whether it's right for them to bring it into their lives from a health and wellness hygiene standpoint. So that's a little bit for me.
Yeah, I love what you're mentioning, that what drew you in is the results that you were seeing clinically
Mhm.
when all the normal and conventional therapies weren't helping or maybe even failing. And this went in and kind of got into that gap and made improvements. So that's really, really impressive. And I think that would probably pique anybody's interest, right? But of course, we have skeptics that say, these are anecdotal cases. And you mentioned there are different studies out there. So maybe you can explain like what exactly it is and how it
Yeah.
works for those people that may not be familiar at all.
Yeah, and it is one of those things at the start when you look into it is that sounds one of those things good, like good, too good to be true. Why does it sound too good to be true? Because it's non-invasive, it's non-pharmaceutical, and has been shown to not to have very, very few, if any, adverse side effects, and no adverse side effects for the vast majority of people. And yet, yes, have effectiveness across all those things we talked to. So that sounds too good to be true. But it's not. And why isn't it? Because, and I don't remember. I think they both said it's the CIA and Ronald Reagan a long time said trust but verify. And so this also goes back to my teletechnology background, what I do to people. So I always give people a way to verify what I say, and it's got to be backed up. And so really, PEMF has the trifecta, backed by science, backed by testimonials, and without side effects. So for one discussion I was preparing with the skeptical doctor here about 2 months ago, I went up to PubMed.gov so I could relay this following information to her. And PubMed.gov, for those who aren't familiar with it, is maintained by the National Institute of Health. It's the repository for gold standard studies, double-blind, peer-reviewed, placebo-controlled. And if one goes up there, I think it was 30, 39 pages returned by putting in PEMF. There were over 800 returned items. I didn't go through all 800. I'm sure there were some that were picked up erroneously, But even if 100 were picked up erroneously, that's 700 that weren't. So there you can find 700 gold standard abstract studies on PEMF, with the vast majority of them showing that it's been of help on that one. And people don't realize, like I mentioned to you when we had another conversation, this is why I call it a well-known secret because of those studies. But NASA has been using PM. It was one of the originators of putting PMS to use. They use it, and they've used it to help maintain the health of astronauts in space on it. Frequency medicine is what this is, and I got to get after this comment, I get directly to your other part of the question, which was what really is this thing? This leads to it. It's the impact of frequencies on people were studied by the Japanese around World War II. Then it spread to Russia. Then I went from over there. So that's been looked at, and people can, because it is frequency. Think about this in the music. Date myself again, but acid rock. It's the acid rock, heavy metal. That does one thing to you, and you can feel it. You listen to classical music, that's a different thing. That's the frequencies coming from the music. Well, the same thing, that's what PEMF is, pulse electromagnetic field therapy, also known as frequency therapy. It's the carry through, most of them carry through a magnetic field, just like the MRI is used and can look from the top and go down into us and look through and see things. This magnetic field goes through us and carries a signal of frequencies and various frequencies by various devices to our bodies. Our bodies work at an electrical level. This stimulates the electrical level, stimulates the cells, kicks off processes for the body, and that are more and more as they look into it. These are signals and frequencies and processes are kicked off that are all helpful to the body. Blood flow, bone works on bones, works on repair proteins. I could go on forever almost on the things that's been shown that it kicks off in the body that are helpful to the body.
Yeah, as you're speaking, I'm looking at your beautiful background and really seeing the heart as the organ in our body that has a huge electromagnetic charge and power that we've known about for a while, that it actually emits these frequencies, but also it's the circulatory pump in your body. And so it's like this physical yet metaphysical thing that we have, and everything, including the earth, it has an electromagnetic energy and field. And that's why we have the ancient practice of grounding, literally putting your feet on the earth and just getting into that natural. And then it's also filled with negative ions, which is the grounding part that helps us feel better. And it has great health benefits that have also been studied.
Right.
Now,
and that's part of why. So you're absolutely correct. PMF is actually related to grounding, and it's if you look at grounding, the challenges with grounding are the Earth's frequency and intensity varies in different places. Got it. Number two, can you go if you're in the middle of New York City, can you go out and put your feet on let's say you go to Central Park, but if you're in the middle of the city, you can't you're putting your feet on cement, so where are you going to put it into the ground or grass to get it? So it's a way of consistently PEMF can be thought of as a way of consistently packaging up those frequencies that come from the earth and the lower intensity that are helpful to our body. And that gets back to that, people, especially being a conservative Midwest person, when I start talking this way, I sometimes think, hey, you're getting really into the voodoo and the foo-foo stuff. But that's when I come back to the NASA part. So why does NASA use it? Because they've seen the effects that an astronaut has on them when they're away from the Earth, whether you're a creationist or evolutionist, I'm a combination to believe in creation, but know you're in an environment that you evolved with. So therefore, they get away from it. They have the blood flow slows down, eyesight changes, muscle loss, bone densities. That's because they're getting away from that nourishment that the earth provides. And that's part of what PEMF is meant to address.
Yeah, even frequent flyers, right, or like pilots, they
Yeah.
are away from that earth and the core of the earth. And the further away you get, the less likely you are to benefit from this grounding electromagnetic fields that the earth just naturally provides to us. It already does so much, and this is another thing. And ancients also used magnetic therapy. They recognized this, and they
Mhm.
would place magnets all over the body, not as sophisticated as now we have with PMF, but they knew this in Chinese medicine, other types of medicine, and also herbs, because they grow in the earth. They also have this electromagnetic energetic signature in addition to the phytochemicals that we're used to studying and analyzing. But it's really, really interesting how everything kind of ties together. So tell us a little bit more about that technology that is now available and how it's able to transmit the PMF and how frequently you need to use it to get the benefits.
Okay. There are a lot of various versions of, let's say, instruments out there. Some are like a little hoop that you hold on to. The ones, and there are some of the ones that are very high intensity. I don't like those. I like the low frequency ones, the lower intensity ones. But for reasons of safety and because you mentioned ionization, these are they're non-ionizing. So for people who don't know what that is, the ionizing ones, even like a PET scan that people often take, those are things that ionizing can actually affect the tissues in the body. Non-ionizing really can't affect that. So the safety factor. But it's just like so just as the magnetic field passes through us and carries that signal, it's like a dog whistle, where a dog can hear this whistle, but we can't. We can't audibly hear this signal, but our bodies can, and the bodies just respond to it and vibrate and kick off the processes forward in there. So that's what it does. And then there's just, in my opinion, it does what I've seen. Everything you do right, when it covers a number of sins to give you time to do things right, reverse things, everything you're doing right, it helps you do better and it makes it more. Pharmacists will call it potentiates. For example, you could be eating the right food, but if you've got blood flow problems at the capillary level, which is we talk about the heart, you talk about the artery and veins, those are 24% of the cardiovascular system. 76%, the last mile of the cells, which is very important, are the capillaries. And if blood flow is compromised there, that's what you see happening with diabetics. Tissue dies off, nerves die off. So what PEMF can do and it's shown to do is improve that blood flow, that capillary level. So now you're eating the right things, and now those nutrients can get to the right place. Number two, because you're also delivering more oxygen to the cells are functioning better. Part of the cell functioning is uptake. So both distribution and uptake is improved by the blood flow improvement that PMF provides. And then on and on. Like I mentioned, it kicks off, one of them kicks off repair shock protein number 70, which is a repair protein for tissues. So it helps maintain elasticity, it can work to improve elasticity of tissues. So less drying out, not as prone to injury. When you have injuries, recovering faster from them. It helps you get better sleep. If you're trying to sleep, it helps you get better sleep. So I'll let you ask a question here versus rambling on, but that's what you say. That's how it comes to you is through a signal. The body understands it, responds to it at an electrical level that kicks off processes in the body, and works across a wide range of the processes the body needs for healing, for staying well, and for performance.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. This is such a vast topic that I really just want to condense it all into this episode. And I think the most important thing we already covered is the safety features. You can't really lose if by trying to incorporate this therapy in addition to the other things, right? You can't just do one thing. You have to do all the things to
Correct.
support your body and have it be potentiated and have it all work in synergy. That's what I always say. So tell us like a little bit about expectations, right? Because that's something that people want to know. How soon can you feel benefits from this? How frequently do you need to use it? How do we choose the right device for us?
Yeah. So The frequency, it depends. Now that gets back to my old economics training. As I always say, economists would say it depends. So it depends, Marina. What do I mean by that? I have seen people, hence why, I have it, uh, some devices in with a lot of healthcare providers, conventional, integrative, and alternative. So people can come in and they can come in twice, 2 or 3 times a week and get progress with some very, very difficult challenges, like with neuropathy, with tinnitus, with osteoarthritis, with rheumatoid arthritis, on and on. They can get a lot of progress with the bone injuries, like physical therapists use it, and people are coming in a couple times a week and part of their physical therapy. So you can get great benefit 2 or 3 times a week. If one wants the ultimate, and that's why people often take it and bring it home, the ultimate for for the longevity, for sustaining wellness, for their through all the cognitive benefits. FDA, for one of them, it says, cognitively, clarity, concentration, it helps with. You want all those things and you want to sustain those things, then you have them at home, and a couple of them you use it twice a day. That one. So impact on a number of things by going using it 2 to 3 times a week. You want the ultimate for health, healing, wellness, performance. Have it at home. You'll use it every day. How do you choose them? I'll give you my criteria and how I select the ones that I work with. One, I want mine to be FDA cleared. Some people discount that. But to me, that tells me the company has put themselves underneath scrutiny, are okay with being scrutinized, or okay with being regulated. I want that. Number two, I want it to be low frequency PEMF versus the high frequency PEMF. And number three, I want to see the testimonials, and in some cases, for some brands, there are brand specific studies that have been done on them. So that's why I encourage people to take a look at that. Are there for that brand? And why do I say that? Because there are, like, in a number of things, just like you can have various brands of car, and one has an engine this size and they can go this fast. The signals are different in some of the PEMF devices. Some of the signals are patented, so sometimes things have been studied with that specific signal, and others that they haven't. So um, a Volkswagen Jetta might not make a climb up Mount Everest, but a Humvee might. So that's why you try and do that. But best things are at the FDA clearance, low frequency, track record, haven't been around at least a good number of years, and have testimonials, and if possible, because some brand specific studies on it to show efficacy.
Yeah, those are excellent recommendations, Tim. Thank you. And just to put, some people that may still be wary at ease, there is a very similar sounding word EMF, right, versus the PMF. And we've heard from, the holistic community specifically about the dangers of like Wi-Fi signals and 5G and EMF and all of that. So what's really the difference, and how do we know that the PMF we're getting is actually, helping us and not harming us?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things. So it's that range, and I'm with you. I think so. I won't. I might be confusing France and Russia here, so I'm not going to give the specific ones. But even them, for example, one of them said, "Look, we're not going to allow Wi-Fi in our nursery to be around kids and affecting the brains." And then it was Russia that says, yes, they're going to put limitations on the amount of EMF and the frequency that's out there within this range. So yes, but what that is, there's a whole, and PEMF is an EMF, but there are, just like there are good mushrooms and there are killer mushrooms, there is good EMF and there's potentially dangerous EMF. Like even the PET scan we talked about, that's an EMF type thing, and we use that for diagnostics, but that can cause damage to the body. So you have to. That's why I also like the low frequency EMF, because you're not in that higher range. that has potential to be the ionizing and affect the tissues on that. Number two, PEMF has actually been shown to help the body clear itself of things from the Wi-Fi, from the electricity is produced under high wires. It's PEMF has been shown to help clear out that electro smog, if you will. So, and there are devices that one can use to test to see the amount of EMF that your microwave is producing, that your Wi-Fi is producing, and what your EMF and what your PMF device might produce. And so you can test for the beep in the safety range. You can look at the studies that have been shown that it helps clear that electro smog. And then one has to look at you can because of so much testing, what I've seen, you can prove that you can prove that PEMF is working in your body. I've had a number of women of advanced age that break that, I've come to know it, that fifth metatarsal bone in the foot. And they've shown, the last one that I worked with, she had not shown any healing in that for 8 weeks. She was working with the surgeon. The surgeon was scheduling her for surgery. She heard about me and PEMF, and she said, hold on. She came, she rented one from me, used it for 4 weeks, was able to go back. That doctor, by manual manipulation and by x-ray, showed the bone was healed. So there's been blood work changes, A1C level changes, even blood pressure, which is not necessarily blood work changes, but blood pressure changes, glucose levels, triglyceride levels, homocysteine levels. You can see the changes you can see fine test for changes in the body to show that this is not a placebo. And I like placebos anyway. Like a person told me once, who cares if it's placebo as long as it works? But there you can, at net, you can test, you can see, you can feel, you can verify that it's having impact in your bodies.
Yeah, thank you for that context. I agree with you about placebo, and I personally think we're underutilizing and understudying the power of our mind because
But
we even know that we're only using like maximally 5% of our capacity. So imagine if we could just focus on progressing that and making better use of our powerful brain and our heart. But yeah, I think the biggest thing that you mentioned about FDA clearance is so important because we know how stringent and regulated the field is for medical devices as well as drugs. I can't say the same for food, but they do a good job with the drugs and the devices. And I see here that it's approved as an adjunct to cervical fusion surgery in patients at a high risk for non-fusion. So that's
yeah.
a huge indication, and that it's somewhere between a class 2 and class 3 status. I'm not sure currently what it is, but
Yeah, I've seen some have some have a class 1 status that is FDA has looked at and said reasonable assurance of safety. They never say anything is completely safe on it, but reasonable assurance of safety. And some have a class 2. And this is in the low frequency. And the low frequency class 2 says it's been shown both to have be safe and have shown to be effective. And you can make certain statements or claims of where it's effective at. Okay. And one thing I will mention on this one, this was first approved in PEMF in general, was first approved by the FDA back in the late 70s or early 80s after work done at Columbia University Medical by a guy named Dr. Andrew Bassett that showed it could speed the healing of bone fractures that weren't responding to their types of care. So again, this gets back to the well-known secret. Top universities, medical research and universities have looked at it. NASA uses all the studies you can find up on PubMed.gov. If one goes out to YouTube and puts in PEMF, then they'll get the testimonials. They go out to Google Scholar and put in, they may not be the same gold standard, but they'll see tons and tons and tons of articles on it and say, where's this thing? And top sports teams around the globe use a couple of brands to help their athletes train harder, longer, recover faster, avoid injury, recover faster from injury. The other recovery is from exertion and getting back to it. And they have tons of money to spend on evaluation. So this is a beautiful thing, Marina.
Yeah, like you said, it's measurable, and that's all we're asking for in our evidence-based
Right.
scientific community. And I personally think we're investing way too many resources studying drug discovery and funding all the different chemical ways to support the body when there's so many other ways that we can be focused on including food and herbs and devices and just like really maximizing what we can be bringing to healthcare and not just putting all our eggs into the drug category. So I love that you're doing this work. And if you have just a couple more minutes, I'd love to do a rapid fire round with you.
Sure. But with one comment, like I said, so we've got me, as you can see, PMF was where the word passion is overused these days, but it's one of my passion and focus. But I want to concur and supplement what you said. And that's what, and again, why I like PMF, because it helps everything else you do right be better. But yes, exercise, people look at exercise for fitness and for performance, but exercise can really cause chemical changes in the body that are for health. And so I just did a little discussion today on exercise as medicines that and nutrition. Yes, nutrition itself is healing, and the herbs and the other nutrients, and then nutrients can come into. So there are a lot of things that indeed are medicine for us that should be taken into account. We should be looking at for healing and for prevention. Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. So let's drop into our rapid fire round. So question number one that I'll ask all my guests is, what's the number one way you would recommend the audience to improve their quality of life right now?
Another plan for it. Take it seriously. And that's I'm staying out of the spiritual or religious realm and staying into, because that's a whole nother discussion. But for the area that we're talking about right now, is take your wellness seriously, be proactive and plan for it, just like you would like to plan make financial planning.
Yeah, make it a priority. Absolutely. The Dalai Lama says, right, that we kill our health to get money, and then we use our money to heal and get our health back. So
Yep.
it's kind of ridiculous the way that we live. Okay, question number two. What's a fun hobby or pastime you have now?
Uh, I don't have a lot of hobbies now. Well, I guess I still say my resistance training is a fun hobby and pastime for me now. So still do that.
Love it. What is your favorite meal to prepare or to have?
I'm a lover of food, Maria, so you really asked me to narrow this down. But I will say one that I've gotten is taking the precedent these days is something called Texas Cowboy Stew. It's got just it does have a little bit of processed meat in it, but it's got everything else that's healthy for you in it. It's just beautiful tasting. So it's about everything in the world you put into it.
I love it. Well, Tim, thank you so much for being on with us today and sharing your wisdom and diving into this field of PMF with us. And if people have more questions or looking for resources and insights, how can they get in touch with you and learn more?
Sure. One that they can see some of the personal email on there, but the first way is that my email is tim@wellnesswaveclub.com, and there's a website called Wellness Wave Club, and so that's a good way to get a hold of me in the best way.
All right. Well, thank you again for coming on. It was a blast, and I hope to see you soon again.
All right, thank you, Maria. Good to be here with you.
Take care. Bye.